Hi and welcome. Today, we're jumping into a conversation that's absolutely critical, one filled with both huge potential and serious risk. We're talking about India's AI paradox.
And believe me, this isn't just about code and algorithms. We're really stepping into one of the most important economic conversations of our time. And we're going to unpack this whole story using some really powerful insights from the Anthropic Economic Index Report. So let's get right into it.
So that brings us to the big question, right? How does a country like India, which is just bursting with tech talent, actually stack up at this huge crossroads for AI? Well, the data suggests we're at a really critical turning point. And honestly, the moves we make right now could shape our economic future for decades to come.
Okay, so before we can really understand India's unique position, we've got to zoom out for a second and just look at the bigger picture. We are right in the middle of a global AI surge that is moving faster than anything we've ever seen. I mean, just to give you a sense of the sheer speed we're dealing with here. AI reached adoption rates in just 2 years that took the internet 5 years to get to. This isn't just rapid change, it's what you'd call hyper-acceleration. It's completely reshaping economies as we speak.
So with that insane global speed in mind, let's bring it back home to India. The paradox, the real puzzle here, can be told through 3 specific numbers that, when you put them together, they paint a pretty concerning picture.
All right, first up, 0.27. Now, what is that? That's India's score on something called the Anthropic AI Usage Index, or AUI. It basically measures how much AI is being used relative to the working-age population. And you need to know this, any score under 1 means that adoption is lagging way behind what you'd expect.
Now, that number might not mean much on its own, but this is where it gets pretty startling. Just look at this comparison. India's 0.27 is just dwarfed by the US, which is at 3.62, and Singapore at a massive 4.57. So yeah, we have a lot of total users, but our per-person adoption rate, it's telling a completely different and, frankly, a much more worrying story.
Okay, the second number reveals a serious imbalance. We have a huge overdependence on coding. In India, more than half of all AI use is for coding tasks. That's way above the global average of just 36%. It's creating what some analysts are starting to call a code monoculture.
And this brings us to the third part of this puzzle. This one is less about a number and more about a mindset. See, the data is pointing to this quiet but really powerful shift happening inside our workforce. And it centers on 2 totally different ways of thinking about AI. Automation first, which is where you just hand off the whole task to the AI, versus augmentation-driven, where you use AI as a collaborator to make your own skills even better.
And here's the kicker, the crucial link. In countries with lower adoption rates like India, that automation-first mindset is way more common. So, in effect, we're training ourselves to delegate work away, not to collaborate with AI to make our own work better and more valuable.
So when you put these signals together, low adoption, this super narrow focus on coding, and this automation mindset, they all point toward a really significant risk, a widening digital and economic divide.
And look, this isn't some new, unheard of thing. History has shown us this pattern time and time again. You can see it here. Major tech shifts, from electricity to the internet, have always ended up concentrating the benefits in the regions that adopt them early and broadly. The real concern here is that AI seems to be following that exact same playbook, which could make global inequality even worse.
There's a quote from the report's analysis that puts this danger in really stark terms. It says, "We face a future where our workforce is automated out, not empowered up." And that right there is the core risk that we have to figure out how to address.
But look, this is not a done deal. This future isn't set in stone. The data also points to a very clear way forward. It's about shifting from that automation-first thinking to an augmentation-driven mindset. So let's take a look at what that new course actually involves. So this big strategic pivot really boils down to 3 key things. First, we have got to broaden how we use AI, way beyond just coding, and into things like strategy, analytics, and research. Second, we need to focus on building deep domain expertise, the kind of contextual knowledge that an AI just can't replicate. And finally, we have to learn how to truly collaborate with these tools, blending the power of the machine with our own human judgment.
When you step back and look at this whole analysis, it all flows into a much, much bigger question, one that goes way beyond the daily headlines and really gets to the heart of the future of work itself.
So, the question I want to leave you with is this. Is AI's disruption really about just replacing all the tech and data science jobs that so many of us are preparing for? Or
is the truth of what's happening far more layered, far more nuanced than what the headlines are screaming about.
In fact, wrestling with these very questions has actually pulled me into a whole other project that I'm deep into right now. It's an absolutely fascinating area, and I promise I'll share more about it with you when the time is right.
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. More insights are on the way. Until then, goodbye for now.